Have you ever felt exhausted by your own mind, like you're doing everything right, planning everything perfectly, but peace still feels just out of reach? You're not broken. You're not doing it wrong. This is the story of a woman who discovered that sometimes the thing we think is protecting us is actually the prison. And what she learned changed everything. Once upon a time, in a quiet village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a woman named Clara. She had kind eyes and careful hands. Her cottage sat at the edge of the village, overlooking a patch of land that caught the morning sun perfectly. More than anything, Clara wanted to grow a garden there. She dreamed of vegetables and flowers, of creating something beautiful with her own hands. But Clara had a problem. She worried about everything. Every decision became a mountain she couldn't climb. Every choice felt like a risk she couldn't afford to take. The worry had been with her for years, growing quietly like a weed she never pulled. She told herself it was wisdom. She told herself it was responsibility. But deep down, she knew it was stealing her peace. One spring morning, Clara decided today would be different. She would plant her garden. She spent 3 weeks researching soil types, reading about seeds, studying weather patterns. She made lists. She drew diagrams. She planned every detail. But when the day came to actually plant, she stood at the edge of her land and froze. Her hands trembled. What if I choose the wrong spot? Say tot. Say tot. What if the soil isn't right? The questions multiplied like rabbits, so say what? She told herself she needed more information. A month later, she tried again. This time she bought the seeds. Beautiful packets of tomatoes, carrots, lettuce. She laid them out on her kitchen table. She studied them. She imagined the garden they would become. But then a neighbor stopped by. "Are you planting now?" The neighbor asked. "I thought the season was almost over." Doubt flooded Clara's chest like cold water. Maybe she'd waited too long. Maybe she should wait until next year. Maybe she needed different seeds. She put them away in a drawer. She felt the familiar tightness in her throat. That voice that said, "See, you can't even do this simple thing one more time." She gathered her courage. It was late summer now. The days were getting shorter. She knelt in the dirt with a packet of seeds in her hand. Her heart pounded. This was it. She would do it, but her hands shook so badly she couldn't open the packet. Tears came, hot and frustrated. She sat there in the dirt and cried. "What's wrong with me?" She whispered. "Why can't I just plant a garden? Why is everything so hard?" She felt broken. She felt foolish. She wondered if she would ever feel at peace. That evening, Clara walked through the village in a daze. Her mind was heavy. She barely noticed where her feet were taking her. She found herself on a path she didn't usually walk, past the edge of the village, where an old woman lived alone. The woman was sitting outside her small house. Her hair was white as snow. Her face was lined with years of smiling. She looked up as Clara approached. "You carry something heavy," the old woman said gently. It wasn't a question. Clara hesitated. She didn't know this woman well, but something in those kind eyes made her stop, made her speak. "I can't plant a garden," Clara said. The words tumbled out. "I've tried 3 times. I've planned everything. I've researched everything. But every time I try, I freeze. I worry I'll do it wrong. I worry it won't grow. I worry I'm wasting time, wasting money, wasting everything. And now the season is almost over, and I've done nothing. Just, I can't stop worrying long enough to actually do anything." The old woman nodded slowly. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she stood and gestured for Clara to follow. They walked to a small shed behind the house. Inside were 2 clay pots filled with soil. The old woman pulled a handful of seeds from her pocket. "Watch," she said softly. She planted 3 seeds in the first pot. She pressed them gently into the soil. She watered them lightly. Then she set the pot on a shelf near the window. "Now, watch this one," she said. She planted 3 seeds in the second pot. Same soil, same seeds, same water. But this time, after she set it down, she waited only a moment. Then she dug her finger into the soil. She pulled up one of the seeds. She examined it, she put it back. She covered it again. A few minutes passed, she dug it up again. Checked it, moved it slightly to the left, buried it again. She did this over and over. Digging, checking, moving, adjusting. Clara watched in silence. Finally, the old woman turned to her. "Tell me," she said, "which seeds do you think will grow?" Clara looked at the two pots. The answer was obvious. "The first one," she said quietly. "Why?" the old woman asked. "Because you left it alone. You gave it what it needed and then you trusted it." The old woman smiled. A sad, knowing smile. "Yes," she said. "And what am I doing to the second pot?" Clara's throat tightened. "You're disturbing it. You're not letting it rest." The old woman placed a gentle hand on Clara's shoulder. Her touch was warm. "You think you're helping?" she said. "You think you're protecting? But you're actually disturbing the very thing you want to flourish. The seed doesn't need your constant checking. It needs trust." She paused. Let the words settle. Your life is the same. When you try to control every outcome, when you dig up every decision to examine it again and again, you prevent the natural growth that wants to happen. You exhaust yourself fighting a battle that was never yours to fight. The old woman's voice grew even softer. Peace doesn't come from preparing for every disaster. It comes from trusting that you have what you need when you need it. The worrying isn't protecting you, Clara. It's the thing that needs protecting from. Clara felt something break open inside her chest. Tears came. Quiet and cleansing. She had spent years believing her worry was love, was responsibility, was wisdom. But now she saw it clearly. She was the hand that kept digging up the seed. She was the one preventing her own garden from growing. She understood. Clara returned home that day and made a quiet decision. She would plant her garden not when she felt ready, not when every fear was answered, but now, today. The next morning, she knelt in the soil, the same soil she'd stood over so many times before. She took a seed in her hand. Her hands trembled, thoughts came like a flood. What if they don't grow? What if you're wasting time? What if the neighbor was right? But this time, she didn't argue with the thoughts. She didn't try to answer every question. She simply noticed them. She let them be there, and she kept planting. One seed, then another, then another. It was a small victory, but it was hers. Days turned into weeks. The urge to check the seeds came often. Every morning, her feet wanted to walk to the garden. Her hands wanted to dig. Her mind wanted to see if anything was happening yet. But she remembered the old woman's two pots. She remembered the seed that needed trust. So she watered them once a day. And then she walked away. When worry whispered that she should have a backup plan, she smiled. She said to herself, "I've given them what they need." When fear told her this was reckless, she replied gently, "No. This is trust." Something inside her began to soften. The tightness in her chest eased like a knot coming undone. She slept deeper. She laughed more easily. The world around her seemed brighter, though nothing external had changed. The change was in her. One morning, she looked out her window. Green shoots were breaking through the soil. Tiny, fragile, beautiful. Her garden was growing. She hadn't hovered. She hadn't controlled. She had simply trusted, and life had responded. A few weeks later, a neighbor stopped by, the same one who had planted doubt before. She saw the thriving garden. Lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, turning from green to red. "Clara," she said, amazed, "this is beautiful. Would you teach my daughter how to grow vegetables? She's been too afraid to try." Clara felt warmth spread through her body. She hadn't sought this. She hadn't worried it into existence. It had come naturally, as a result of her inner change. The thing she'd wanted all along had arrived. Peace, contribution, connection. Not because she chased it, but because she stopped strangling it with fear. She thought of the old woman. She whispered a quiet thank you to the wind. Years passed. Gently, Clara's garden became a place where villagers came to learn, not just about planting, but about trust. She would tell them about the two pots, about the seed that needed space to grow. The story became a tradition, passed from mother to daughter, from friend to friend. The old woman was never seen again, but her wisdom lived on. In every garden, in every choice made with quiet trust instead of frantic control. And Clara would say, when asked about her peace, the seed knows how to grow. Your job is to step back and let it. Now, dear listener, I wonder if you see yourself in Clara's story. Perhaps you, too, have been digging up the seeds of your life, checking them obsessively, moving them around, trying to force growth through sheer willpower. Perhaps you've mistaken control for care. Perhaps you've been exhausted by a battle you were never meant to fight. What if the worry isn't protecting you? What if it's the very thing blocking the peace you seek? Here's the truth that set Clara free. And it can set you free too. You don't have to have all the answers before you act. You don't have to eliminate every risk before you move forward. You simply need to give yourself what you need, and then trust. Tonight, before you sleep, I want you to try something. Think of one thing you've been worrying about, one seed you've been digging up over and over. Write it down on a piece of paper, then place it somewhere out of sight. In a drawer, under your pillow. Anywhere you won't see it. Say out loud, I've given this what it needs. Now I trust. That's it. That's the practice. You have more control than you think. But it's not the control you've been reaching for. It's the control to stop controlling. It's the power to step back, to breathe, to trust. If this story resonated with you, if you felt Clara's exhaustion in your own chest, would you share it with someone who might need to hear it too? Subscribe if you want more stories like this, and know that I'm sending you peace right now. Across whatever distance separates us, the seed knows how to grow. So do you.